Rogaría al auditorio un fuerte aplauso para nuestro presidente. Que como ustedes comprenderán, ha hecho un esfuerzo ímprobo por estar aquí con nosotros. So, Julius Rector Turovaski will have the floor.
As we know, I'm from Poland, from Krakow, of Poland. I represent apparently university of public and personal public individual settings. Not in our university makes scientific and a lot of practical activities. Of course, I'm very thankful for invitation for this conference, very prestigious conference in our yearly schedule. We've got only 3 prestigious conferences like that. And I have to say, in addition, during academic year, I'm taking part in about 11, 12, or even 14 conferences then are very high in my scientific life, but not only in scientific life, but because I feel that in my inside, until today we were able to be friends. It's something more, because emotional activity, as I heard, gives more power in explaining theory. You can to be more involved in it. Sorry for my personal feelings, but I am only happy to be here. Then it's a great honor not only for me but for my team, our prorector, his second time here, Dr. Stelma, expert in terrorist and counter-terrorist issues, our dean, military expert, Mr. Vlaslo, and everything, our counselor, but I have to show our counselor because he is engine of our organization.
We are going to have the next CICA in 1 week. When?
Yes, I understand. Of course, in this huge network of CICA, we are going to spend, if you wish, with us time in Krakow, 11 and 12, May, not so far from here when we talk about time, but it is 60. The CICA conference, our security forum, because it's connected with security forum, Krakow is 18. In 2 years we will 20 years of the university, but 2 years, not now. Young university. I can see, as I said, a lot of friends, people for me, not on faces, but additionally from very precious scientific interest. Different, but very useful on security sciences, I think. At the end, I would like to say this very specific and very hard time for Europe and for the whole world. Then it's specifically important to talk to each other about this very complicated time. We know about the situation. Ukraine, Russia, Poland, east of Europe. Maybe in our conference gives us a for today and for the future of Europe. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Julius. So,
yes. We have, besides of the CICA international, we have another CICA Central European Formation and Research Center, which the director of that is Professor Marcana Farniewska from Girona, from the north of Poland, Girona. I don't know if he's here.
yes, he's here.
Get out, the people. So, anytime that you want to attend or online to be listening and intervening to this Central European CICA Center, you can do, and she will please to help you.
Okay. Thank you, Julius, for your words. And now, for finalizing this opening ceremony, my rector, have the floor.
Thank you, Juan, and good afternoon and welcome to Nebrija University, and a special welcome to Jesus. It's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you very much. You are the alma mater of CICA.
Thank you.
On behalf of Nebrija University, it is our great pleasure to host the 66th CICA International Conference on Security and Defense, focused on the topic Postmodernity, a review of challenges and problems. CICA conferences provide an interdisciplinary forum for worldwide class scientists, diplomats, militia, policymakers, and professionals from many other fields to discuss and exchange ideas on the hottest topics and progress on the field of security and defense, and more broadly, conflict and aggression. This second decade of the 21st century has begun with enormous challenges for the security and defense of the entire world. such as the consolidation of human rights or migration, besides the nuclear issues and the omnipresence of SARS-CoV-2. Under this wide title, our 66th CICA intends to face these important systematic weaknesses, highlighting the threats for security and peace from postmodernity approach. In this new conference, CICA International and its collaborators will address the general theme of security and defense in postmodernity. More specifically, the challenges and problems of the European Union's security and defense are analyzed by the Spanish Academy of Military Arts and Sciences, ACAMI. The fuzzy concept of postmodernity is analyzed in depth, extracting the implications that this new paradigm has for international security and defense. The convergence of postmodern thought and the threat development of new disruptive technologies pose novel situations for security and defense, which will be analyzed in depth at this CICA International Conference from a multidimensional perspective. I'm sure the conference will allow participants to improve their knowledge about our defense and security, and I hope you enjoy this CICA conference. And please, take the opportunity to enjoy the beautiful city of Madrid. Welcome and thank you very much.
Muchísimas gracias, rector. Pues empezamos la sesión acto seguido, lo que tardemos en colocar las cosas y en que Jesús ocupe su lugar o se retire como él prefiera. Muchas gracias.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here this afternoon to open with this first session such an interesting congress about security and defense in postmodernity, a review of challenges and problems. And what better way to start to warm up than with a very interesting and expert panel of speakers that are going to be exposing today a wide range of topics, really dealing with what challenges and problems are today in our security and defense environment. I would like, without further ado, because we have a very intense afternoon, introduce the different speakers that will be presenting today. In first place, we will have Professor Juan Cayón speaking. Professor Juan Cayón is French language and civilization. He learned French in the Sorbonne University in Paris. He's got a law degree and a diploma in legal practice from the university, from ICADE, as we know. He's a PhD in law philosophy, moral politics, as well from ICADE. And he has been dedicating all his life to the university administrative career, besides his teaching, mostly on topics related to natural law and security. He's been teaching at the Sorbonne University in Paris, at the University of Buenos Aires, at the University Pontificia Javeriana, and also at our Center for National Defense Studies, CICA, in Spain. He's the author of several books and chapters, and he is, most of them indexed, and he is member of the Royal Academy of Jurisprudence and Legislation in Spain, as well as the Iberian American section and the Natural Law section. He's been rector of Nebrija from 2014 to 2020, and he's currently rector at University. Professor Juan Cayón will talk about postmodernity as a complex phenomenon. There's no enough room, so I will be doing some sport, coming back and forth for the presentation. So I'm going to leave the panel to Professor Cayón, and I will be introducing, as far as we move on, the different speakers. So, Professor Cayón, please, you have the floor.
¿Cuánto tiempo tenemos? 10 minutos.
No.
Yeah, exactly. It's about 20 minutes, as far as I'm aware. Thank you.
That was my comment.
Thank you, Alfonso. Voy a intentar ser muy rápido. As you know, this is a bilingual Congress, and for that I prefer to express myself in Spanish, because, as you can hear a few minutes ago, I studied French all my life, and it's useful. All people, I'm not sure no estoy seguro si se está oyendo este micrófono. Hola, ¿sí? Vale, ahora sí, ahora sí. So I continue my presentation in Spanish, and I put on the chronometer in order to do not pass 20 minutes of exposition. He preparado una exposición para poderla adaptar al tiempo que tuviéramos, muy breve, con 4 puntos: una introducción, un análisis o una reflexión somera sobre la modernidad como antecedente de la posmodernidad, y luego, ya entrando en materia, bueno, pues un somero análisis también, más que nada para hacerles a ustedes reflexionar o pensar sobre la posmodernidad como fenómeno complejo, para terminar con una última vinculación, digamos, más una serie de conclusiones referidas al ámbito de la seguridad y la defensa. Como, si Dios quiere, estas intervenciones, o al menos aquellas que pasen el proceso de selección por pares, serán publicadas en inglés con Springer. Bueno, si hay alguien que no es capaz de seguir la explicación en español, bueno, pues allí podrá leer estas cosas, ¿no? Puede sorprender, a modo de introducción decía que puede sorprender un título como el que he elegido, la posmodernidad como fenómeno complejo, pero sin embargo siempre ha sido una de las características de las acciones de CICA International el combinar y abordar los problemas, digamos, de manera transversal y a través de un enfoque multidisciplinar, y por lo tanto no les extrañe a ustedes que también, de alguna manera, la filosofía o la reflexión geoestratégica tenga hueco en nuestras actividades, ¿no? Aunque haremos alguna referencia, naturalmente, al ámbito de la seguridad y defensa, no cabe duda que esta primera conferencia, cuando planificamos el programa, lo que buscaba era ubicar el fenómeno de la posmodernidad dentro de nuestra historia y de esa manera poder entenderlo mejor en aquellas vertientes que luego, posteriormente, cada uno de los especialistas va a ir abordando de los fenómenos que estamos viendo en el ámbito de la seguridad y la defensa. La antropología, la sociología, la política, la economía, hasta la propia filosofía de nuestros días tienen unas características particulares que lamentablemente no nos va a dar tiempo a tratar, pero que se abordan, digamos, como no se habían abordado de ninguna otra forma a lo largo de la historia. Hablando de la antropología, pues esta cultura de la muerte tan extendida o el transhumanismo son fenómenos que no se habían visto de esta manera, al menos en el Occidente o en la tradición del Occidente cristiano, ¿no?, de la que bebemos. En la sociología, esa multiculturalidad, ese control social del mismo modo. En la política, los populismos, el romanticismo ideológico, al que luego me referiré. En la economía, el globalismo y los conflictos entre las grandes superpotencias por un mercado global. Y en la propia filosofía, bueno, pues este idealismo romántico en el que estamos inmersos y esta época de la posverdad. Claro, para un filósofo hablar de la posverdad es un contrasentido, ¿no?, porque el filósofo lo que busca es la verdad y si la verdad no existe, pues entonces estamos destruidos como disciplina científica. Vamos a centrar, por tanto, digamos, nuestras reflexiones en esos campos y quiero hacerles, eso sí, una última observación en esta parte introductoria, y es que, lógicamente, cada uno de nosotros tiene su propia perspectiva y su propia visión de las cosas. Yo les voy a exponer a ustedes la mía, que puede ser que coincida o no con la suya, y precisamente estamos en un entorno universitario y en un evento científico donde precisamente las ideas es el lugar idóneo, digamos, para poder discutir sobre las ideas, ¿no? Un foro intelectual como el presente, yo creo que se enriquece por el debate y daríamos buena o haría por buena la clásica definición de la universidad, ¿verdad?, de esa comunidad de hombres libres que busca la verdad. Pues así me gusta sentirme en una universidad y bueno, doy por hecho que en este seminario así va a ser. Permítame avanzar y una reflexión sobre la modernidad como antecedente. La época inmediatamente anterior al momento presente, que llamaremos modernidad, sin entrar en la polémica historicista de cuándo empieza, cuándo termina, a los efectos prácticos, yo utilizo el término modernidad aquí para referirme al periodo histórico que abarca, pues básicamente desde la Revolución Francesa y hasta finales del siglo XX. Es verdad que la Revolución Francesa tuvo algunos antecedentes, no sé, el nominalismo de Guillermo de Ockham o la Reforma Protestante, pero digamos que nos centraremos en esos 200 años aproximadamente de historia para centrarnos un poco en lo que quiero decir respecto a la modernidad. Sin duda, la modernidad es una época convulsa, ¿no?, que comienza con esa Revolución Francesa y con el terror y con un cambio radical en casi todos los paradigmas de la civilización occidental. Y así, por ejemplo, bueno, pues se abandona el realismo nosiológico, la manera de conocer realista, para ser suplantado por un idealismo, ¿verdad?, que todavía hoy, desde luego, pervive en la posmodernidad y que es la base prácticamente de toda la filosofía contemporánea y desde luego también de la filosofía posmoderna. Se abandona el teocentrismo, ¿verdad?, todavía heredado del ámbito medieval, y se evoluciona hacia un humanismo, pero no un humanismo en el estilo renacentista, sino un humanismo racionalista, enciclopédico, cientifista, ¿verdad? Parece que el hombre es el nuevo centro y ese hombre es capaz de todo, ¿no? A mí siempre me recuerda las palabras de las Escrituras cuando, hablando del pecado original, dicen que el pecado original consistía en creer que seríamos como dioses, ¿no? Bueno, pues esto parece que es lo que ha acontecido precisamente en el ámbito filosófico occidental, ¿no? El hombre se considera por encima de toda norma, por encima de toda regla, y luego veremos cómo esto tiene algunas implicaciones también en el ámbito de la seguridad. Abandonando también la concepción política tradicional, el comunitarismo tradicional, para sustituirlo por la forma democrática entendida como forma de Estado. Ya no es una de las formas de gobierno posibles en el estilo de los clásicos, que distinguían entre distintas formas de gobierno y distintas versiones de esas formas de gobierno que podían ser buenas o malas. En este caso, la democracia se ha consolidado como la única forma de gobierno posible y en realidad como una forma de Estado, que además, como veremos más adelante, incluso en nuestros días, trasciende a la moral, ¿no? Excede de la política y trasciende a la moral. Se abandonan, por tanto, todos los ámbitos, los estándares jurídico-políticos clásicos, pactistas, de origen feudal, para suplantarlos por una especie de constitucionalismo fundante, y, desde luego, se abandona la forma de la monarquía tradicional, la forma política de la monarquía tradicional, por supuesto ya corrompida ciertamente en el momento, digamos, del del absolutismo para sustituirla por un republicanismo activo o bien por unas monarquías constitucionales que realmente de monarquías pues tampoco tienen gran cosa, ¿no? En el sentido clásico al menos del término. Es la época del nacimiento de los nacionalismos europeos y americanos que también son además exportados en fase descolonizadora, es decir, esa idea nacionalista también se traslada a los continentes en los que había habido colonias o territorios, posesiones, digamos, de los países europeos, sin tener precisamente muchas veces en cuenta pues esas comunidades o esas naciones culturales o raciales preexistentes. Y luego, por supuesto, en la última fase de esta modernidad, o en la penúltima, si queremos decirlo, la primera mitad del siglo XX, es el momento de las grandes guerras mundiales, ¿no? En suelo europeo, el nacimiento de la era nuclear, la bipolaridad característica de la segunda mitad del siglo XX, en esa guerra más o menos fría entre el bloque capitalista y el bloque comunista representado por la Unión Soviética, ¿no? Y por último, un último de los antecedentes de los que bebe la posmodernidad y que yo creo que tienen sin duda una afección importante en el ámbito de la seguridad y defensa, es la consolidación de la barrera norte-sur desde una perspectiva económica y muchas veces cultural, ¿no? Y de esta manera, digamos, llegamos a la posmodernidad. Y la posmodernidad, bueno, pues la cifraremos pues desde el comienzo, desde la caída del muro de Berlín, si ustedes quieren, o desde el comienzo del siglo XXI y hasta nuestros días, ¿no? Por cifrarla, por ubicarla de alguna manera. Como anunciaba en la convocatoria, digamos, la posmodernidad es un tiempo complejo en el que estos paradigmas de la civilización occidental se están viendo sacudidos constantemente por distintas ideologías y prácticas que yo me atrevo a calificar de agresivas, ¿verdad? Con aparentes y profundas intenciones que a mí se me antoja que están poco estudiadas, ¿no? Es decir, ya habíamos visto como un gran cambio en la época moderna y parece que en la época posmoderna vamos a sufrir un nuevo gran cambio, un nuevo cambio de paradigma, pero ya claro sobre lo que existe en la modernidad, que a su vez era ya distinto de lo que existía antes de la modernidad. Se caracteriza esta época por la aceleración de los acontecimientos. Yo no sé si ustedes tienen la sensación, aunque también esto forma parte de las técnicas de control social, pero no sé si tienen ustedes la sensación de que apenas da tiempo a seguir los asuntos, o que no da tiempo a entrar en profundidad, porque es que, digamos, los acontecimientos se van sucediendo de una manera tan rápida que difícilmente es posible atenderlos con una mínima profundidad, ¿no? Yo creo que las universidades, en gran medida, tenemos una importante responsabilidad en hacer análisis más profundos que los que la banalidad generalizada, digamos, permite hacer. Y esto en un mundo además interconectado en el que, bueno, los sucesos se suceden muy rápidamente y además se comunican pues a la velocidad de la luz, y por ello, bueno, pues resulta muy fácil utilizarlos como fenómenos o como instrumentos de manipulación, como más adelante diré. También, si hay algo que caracteriza la posmodernidad, son los fenómenos contradictorios. Es decir, apreciamos el surgimiento de movimientos, por poner un ejemplo, de ultraderecha y de ultraizquierda, o de muy a la derecha y muy a la izquierda, pero también fenómenos contradictorios en el sentido de que hay cada vez más ricos y cada vez más pobres en las propias sociedades occidentales. Veremos cómo una de las cosas que ocurren y que son un factor de riesgo notable es la erosión de la clase media, ¿no? Signos contradictorios que caracterizan las sociedades posmodernas y que en buena medida yo creo que también tienen de alguna manera algo que ver con la manipulación social y con la utilización, digamos, social de las redes y de la vida actual, ¿no? Yo, ¿qué les voy a decir? Los que me conocen ya lo saben. Mi perspectiva es neta y así lo traslado habitualmente en mi misión docente, ¿no? En la primera sesión de clase invariablemente refiero a mis estudiantes cómo el universo puede explicarse entendiéndolo como un cosmos organizado o como un caos, sin patrones o sentido. Y la práctica totalidad de ellos, por sí mismos, en la mayoría de las ocasiones optan por la primera de estas opciones, ¿no? Parece que el universo está ordenado, hay un orden natural. A partir de ahí yo les hago reflexionar sobre si ese orden natural se puede trasladar al orden jurídico, es decir, si también hay derecho natural, hay derecho que nace en la naturaleza, que nos viene dado y que no depende del legislador humano. Y también me atrevo incluso a avanzar sobre si ese orden, que desde luego en mi opinión se plasma en lo jurídico, también puede llegar a plasmarse en lo social, ¿no? En la estructura social o en la organización de la sociedad. Y desde este entendimiento, en mi humilde opinión, los legisladores, quienes actúan como gobernantes en la sociedad, quienes dictan nuestras leyes, quienes nos gobiernan políticamente, desde esa perspectiva, digo, deberían someterse a ese orden natural si es que este existiera, ¿no? En mi opinión sí que existe. Oye, comprenderán ustedes que no hay tiempo para profundizar en esto, pero lo que percibimos en esta modernidad y desde luego ya radicalmente en la posmodernidad es que el orden natural ha quedado completamente olvidado. Somos unos pocos dinosaurios los que todavía hablamos de estas cosas y la inmensa mayoría de la gente está en otra corriente, en otra manera de pensar. Esto tiene su vinculación, a mi modo de ver, con los fenómenos que podemos apreciar en la posmodernidad y que desde luego van a tener también impacto en el ámbito de la seguridad y la defensa, como más adelante diré, ¿no? ¿Cómo encajamos, por tanto, la posmodernidad con esta visión particular que yo tengo y que defiendo? Bueno, pues con una ruptura evidente, ¿no? Esa ruptura del y seréis como dioses, a la que he hecho mención antes, pero que igual que en lo jurídico, pues en lo social también hay, digamos, una ruptura del orden social natural que se reduce, ese orden social natural, digo, se reduce a asegurar la libertad y la dignidad y los derechos propios de toda persona, y que hoy esta concepción ha desaparecido, entre otras cosas, por ejemplo, banalizando los derechos, ¿no? O sea, tenemos derechos de segunda, tercera, cuarta, quinta generación, el derecho a Internet, en fin, a las cosas más peregrinas que se nos puedan ocurrir. El sustrato filosófico que está detrás de esta posmodernidad es sin duda el idealismo filosófico en una vertiente romántica. Cuanto más leo de romanticismo y cuanto más escribo de romanticismo, más convencido estoy de esta afirmación que les hago a ustedes. No sé si se han parado a pensar, pero la sociedad moderna es la sociedad posmoderna es profundamente romántica en el sentido más clásico del término filosófico respecto del romanticismo, es decir, es una filosofía a la que la realidad le resulta indiferente. La realidad no cuenta, la realidad no importa, solo importan las utopías fingidas, utopías inventadas, utopías que afectan tanto al futuro como al pasado, utopías que pasan por la violencia en muchos casos, es decir, que requieren de la violencia en muchos casos, y que cuando la realidad pues definitivamente choca con esas utopías, lo que ocurre es básicamente dos alternativas, o una reacción violenta o una depresión, y si me apuran ustedes, pues en el mejor ejemplo romántico hasta el suicidio, ¿verdad? Esto además va de la mano de un sentimentalismo social, en el que se excitan los sentimientos de la sociedad para posicionarlos a favor y en contra de las distintas opciones que se nos presentan constantemente, de modo tal que, digamos, el hombre posmoderno, la sociedad posmoderna, es tremendamente sensible a cualquier tipo de causas que le sean debidamente presentadas por quienes las dirigen, ¿no? Y todos firmamos y hacemos filas y protestas y manifestaciones y pedimos nuevos derechos de los animales, en fin, tantas cosas que podríamos hablar. La manipulación del lenguaje en términos sexistas, con esto que se llama la ideología de género. Bien, el relativismo, por tanto, en este contexto es obviamente el dueño y señor de los planteamientos filosóficos posmodernos. Y por tanto de ese relativismo nace lógicamente la posverdad. Es decir, la verdad no existe, lo que existen son distintas visiones de la verdad que se discuten y que, bueno, pues mayoritaria o minoritariamente son apoyadas por unos o por otros. El hombre posmoderno, la sociedad posmoderna, es una sociedad de individuos que están atomizados y que, aunque viven en grandes urbes, en grandes ciudades, sin embargo se sienten desarraigados, no tienen una raíz profunda anclada en la tierra. Los conceptos de patria, de familia, etcétera, son conceptos que están obsoletos y que van cambiando y van mutando, pero que producen en el fondo un vacío existencial muy notable, que también caracteriza al hombre posmoderno y que además le convierte en una especie de juguete de la banalización, ¿verdad? El ciudadano posmoderno está completamente banalizado, se dedica a un ocio que no produce en general, que no produce enriquecimiento, no lee libros, no estudia, no hace un análisis crítico, de hecho carece de espíritu crítico y directamente obedece como una especie de borreguito, ¿verdad? Que todo lo más participa activamente en algún tipo de movimiento social teledirigido, ¿no? Sin saber muy bien exactamente cuáles son las raíces o cuáles son los fundamentos de lo que defiende. Y con esto termino, me quedan 3 minutos, termino ya con la parte, digamos, más orientada más orientada a los términos de seguridad y defensa, sin dejar de referirme, por último, digo, en esa escala que lo acabo de ver en la chuleta y me lo estaba olvidando, de otros dos fenómenos que también son importantes en esta sociedad posmoderna. Por un lado, la sobreinformación y el abuso de la tecnificación, es decir, todo lo que se nos viene encima y que ya estamos padeciendo, ¿no? Con la ciencia de datos, la inteligencia artificial, la dependencia tecnológica de las redes de comunicación, de los terminales móviles y dentro de nada ya de los vehículos conectados y de los electrodomésticos en red, etcétera. No cabe duda que debilita enormemente la vida social, digamos, natural, conforme a ese patrón que yo decía que defiendo. Y además, y por último, como decía, la ideologización y la polarización populista. Los fenómenos populistas han existido siempre. Lo que no han tenido ha sido una difusión como la que hoy en día tienen gracias a los medios de comunicación social. Y, por tanto, ese populismo también vamos a ver cómo creo yo, al menos en mi opinión, vislumbro que puede tener algún riesgo añadido en nuestra época posmoderna. Termino, como decía, con las conclusiones apuntadas al ámbito de la seguridad y la defensa. De todo esto que yo he dicho, que he intentado resumir rapidísimamente, se colige un panorama extremadamente complejo en nuestro ámbito específico y lo visto en estos años de posmodernidad lo confirma, aunque si algo podemos afirmar con poco margen de incertidumbre prospectiva es que la complejidad aumentará, como aumentarán los riesgos. En esto lamento ser bastante pesimista. Solo a título enunciativo, que no limitativo, los que visualizamos en este momento, bueno, pues son los siguientes. En primer lugar, una tensión migratoria irregular, creciente, producto de la desigualdad económica norte-sur, que afectará tanto a Europa como a América del Norte y que sin duda va a generar conflictos en el futuro. En segundo lugar, una preocupante y progresiva tendencia a la desaparición de la clase media en las economías occidentales, que combinada con los problemas derivados de la multiculturalidad y del populismo, podrían hacer crecer los conflictos internos. A mí no me cabe duda que en los próximos 50 años vamos a ver conflictos internos en nuestros países, en los países occidentales, de manera creciente. En ocasiones ese tensionamiento llevará previsiblemente también a crecientes desórdenes internos, como digo, y a una subversión de los órdenes constitucionales estables por la polarización de unos y otros. Dependiendo de quién resulte vencedor de esos conflictos, sin duda alguna nuestros países cambiarán porque cambiarán el texto constitucional, dado que la ley constitucional es todopoderosa. Se percibe evidentemente también, o de manera evidente al menos a mi juicio, un expansionismo nacionalista en el que las actitudes de China o Rusia, por poner dos ejemplos más que evidentes, ¿no?, pero también de algunas políticas exteriores occidentales, en mi opinión, llevará previsiblemente a un tensionamiento internacional creciente. Y vinculado con lo anterior, un incremento del riesgo nuclear, si cabe más real y peligroso que el conocido en el pasado durante la Guerra Fría. Mañana tendremos una sesión en la que vamos a hablar precisamente de la cuestión nuclear y me parece que es de tremenda actualidad. Penúltimo, un incremento de riesgos y amenazas en los nuevos dominios. De esto no me cabe la más mínima duda. Ciberespacio y dominio cognitivo. Me refiero a los dominios, digamos, en el entorno de la defensa, ¿no? Ambos igualmente preocupantes, dado por un lado la tecnodependencia y de ahí la problemática del dominio del ciberespacio y también dada la escasa capacidad crítica y la polarización de nuestras sociedades y de ahí el problema del dominio cognitivo, las fake news y toda esta manipulación social que en manos, inadecuadas puede ocasionar o acrecentar alguno de los conflictos que anteriormente hemos citado. Y por último, en mi opinión, por causa de factores psicológicos y también culturales, parece también previsible un aumento del fenómeno terrorista. Y lo digo esto en dos sentidos. Por un lado, por la forma del terrorismo individual, de actor individual, del lobo solitario, es decir, del perturbado o del fanatizado que quiere salvar al mundo o que quiere vengarse de un mundo que le desagrada y, por tanto, actúa como terrorista, pero también bajo la forma de grupo organizado y particularmente con un probable aumento de las acciones terroristas de corte ideológico y no necesariamente, cultural o religioso, como ha podido ser en estos primeros años de la época posmoderna, ¿no? No creo que necesariamente el terrorismo que vayamos a ver en los próximos 50 años sea exclusivamente terrorismo yihadista, sino que muy al contrario, creo que nos vamos a enfrentar a fenómenos terroristas políticos en nuestros países. Todos estos factores y muchos otros que sin duda se han quedado en el tintero, pues llevaron a CICA International Foundation a generar el presente Congreso Internacional, que como es evidente resulta del máximo interés y de actualidad. Yo con esto termino, me he excedido. Señor moderador, ya lo siento, en 2 minutos, Muchísimas gracias por su atención y quedo a disposición de cualquiera para la crítica, para el comentario o para lo que sea.
Muchas gracias, Juan. Thank you very much, Professor Cayón, for your presentation. Over information, complexity, uncertainty, several challenges. Quite scary, right? If we think about cyberspace, terrorism, nuclear risk, and nationalism rising. Well, we will have time to discuss all that in the debate. Without further ado, I would like to introduce Noemi Nagy. Dr. Noemi Nagy is an associate professor at the Department of International Law at the University of Public Service in Budapest, Hungary, and a guest lecturer at the Department of Legal History at the Faculty of Law at the University of Pécs in Hungary. She holds a PhD in law as well as university's degrees in psychology. Her main research interests are languages rights, minorities' rights, and the international protection of human rights. She also teaches courses in the field of international organization and general issues on international law, and she's the author of more than 70 publications, and among others, 2 books oriented to languages. One, Language of Power, Power of Language, Language Legislation and Language Policy in the History of Europe. And the other one, Self-Restrained Constitutional Justice, the Protection of Nationalities by the Constitutional Court of Hungary. Professor Noemi Nagy is going to talk today about the prospects of international law in the new world order. Thank you very much.
Thank you for this thorough introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very happy to be here, and I'm going to speak English. And I prepared with slides. How do I? Oh, here we go. Okay. So, the current world order is built on the system of de jure equal sovereign states embedded in the framework of international organizations governed by treaties, custom, and other norms of international law. However, many factors point to the possibility that the system as we know it might change in the near future. International law has faced several challenges in the postmodern era due to various factors. Many of these Professor Juan Cayón addressed in his presentation. Challenges include globalization, increased interdependence, the rise of non-state actors such as international corporations, NGOs, and individuals, the emergence of new technologies, and the growing importance of transnational issues such as climate change. The latest challenge is, of course, the Russia-Ukraine war. As for new technologies, and specifically artificial intelligence, you are of course all familiar with ChatGPT, a language model developed by OpenAI. Well, I asked ChatGPT what it thinks about as the most important challenge of the postmodern era, and it said, you can read it on the slide, one of the main challenges faced by international law in the postmodern era is its ability to keep up with the pace of change and the complexity of global issues. Now, out of this, what's happening? So far you saw my slide, but now it's not the one. Luis?
Wait a moment.
Okay. I just pushed the very same button. Okay. So out of this complexity, I singled out 2 issues for today: the Russia-Ukraine war and artificial intelligence. The Russia-Ukraine war is a typical post-hegemonic conflict, a world order conflict, where Russia acts as the challenger of the status quo. There are several possible scenarios that could emerge after the end of the war, each of which with its own implications for the global order. First, if Russia emerges victorious in the conflict and is able to maintain its territorial gains in Ukraine, this could embolden the country to take more aggressive actions in the future, potentially destabilizing the global order. This could also lead to a shift in power dynamics, with Russia emerging as a more dominant player in the international system. Second, the conflict of Ukraine could deepen divisions within Europe, as some countries may support Russia while others may support Ukraine. This could lead to a more fragmented European Union and the weakening of European influence in the global system. Third, the conflict could lead to increased support for NATO and its role in providing security and stability in Europe. This could also lead to closer cooperation between NATO and other allies, such as Japan and Australia, and potentially even the formation of a more unified global security alliance. Fourth, and I admit this is would be an ideal scenario, and I'm not quite optimistic in that regard, the conflict could provide an opportunity for great powers, including the US and China, to work together on a common goal, such as resolving the conflict in Ukraine and preventing similar conflicts in the future, and this could lead to a more collaborative global order. Well, in any case, the conflict will almost certainly lead to significant changes in the balance of power and the relationships between major global powers, with far-reaching implications for the future of the international order. It may even challenge the most fundamental assumptions of international law, including the rules on the use of force, the right to self-defense, the right of peoples to self-determination, and the controversial right to secession. Many of these issues, by the way, I discussed in my presentation in previous CICA last year in Madrid, and several presentations of this conference will also deal with issues directly or indirectly connected to the Russia-Ukraine war, so I'm not going to go into this issue any deeper now. Instead, in the following, I'm going to focus on the evolutionary prospects of international law in the field of human rights and new technologies, especially artificial intelligence. The rapid development of digital and artificial intelligence-based technologies has profoundly transformed various aspects of our lives, from work to law enforcement, from healthcare to transportation, from socializing to education. AI systems play a role in deciding where a crime is likely to take place, what social security benefits someone gets, or whether someone is at a serious health risk. From facial recognition technology to self-driving cars to agriculture, nursing robots, AI is making our lives easier and more efficient. However, it has also the potential to negatively affect our human rights, democracy, and the rule of law. There is a quote on the slide from Director General of the UNESCO, who said that artificial intelligence is humanity's new frontier. Once this boundary is crossed, artificial intelligence will lead to a new form of human civilization. And the crucial question we are faced with is that what kind of society do we want for tomorrow? So we have to be careful. The most common fears related to artificial intelligence are connected to the right to privacy and data protection. It is a staggering fact that in the past decade, humans have produced more, or actually as much data per year as in the entire history of mankind. Amazon, Facebook, Google, and other companies collect unprecedented amounts of data from their users every day. But digitization also affects our environment. Just think of smart home solutions, those household devices that can provide services by connecting to the internet. What we don't always think about is, of course, in addition to convenience considerations, is that online services and products often collect data without the user's knowledge or consent that allows individuals to be identified or profiled based on population-level data. The concept of surveillance state is not unknown to us either. Our public spaces are covered by CCTV cameras, facial and vehicle recognition devices, and traffic monitoring technologies. One of the fastest growing AI technologies used for surveillance is biometric facial recognition, which allows automated comparison of facial features to identify suspects. This technology is widespread in the UK, the United States, and Australia in international airports and border control systems. Facial images collected from passports, driving licenses, and even social media are integrated into a central database that can be accessed by law enforcement and other government agencies. The danger lies in the ability of these systems to link biometric information with data obtained from other databases, such as phone metadata, internet search history, financial data, tax data, and so on. The scope of the collection and use of personal data is constantly expanding, which clearly contradicts the principle of purpose-bound data management. This trend not only violates the right to privacy, but fundamentally threatens the essence of a democratic society. Policing with the consent of an autonomous, dignified individual is slowly giving way to a culture of authoritarian supervision. An example of this is China, where a social credit system was created, and this system rewards and punishes citizens based on a compliance with social norms, which is monitored by an extensive biometric monitoring network. In the field of criminal prevention, to give you another example, AI technologies are mainly used to profile people and areas, predict the occurrence of suspected crimes, and assess the alleged risk of future crime. Of course, AI is not infallible either. For example, excessive reliance on relative probability, lack of profile specificity, or infiltration of inaccurate data into the database can lead to a wrong decision. In such cases, in addition to the right to privacy, the right to liberty and security of the person, the prohibition of arbitrary arrest, and the right to fair trial, including the presumption of innocence, may be violated. The principle of equality of arms as part of the right to defense is violated if the accused does not have the opportunity to question the correctness or selection of automatically produced evidence used against him. Such a case was discussed in front of the European Court of Human Rights. Some of you might have heard of it, the Einarsson case. AI-based risk assessment softwares are widely used in the US, Canada, and the UK to inform decisions about pre-trial detention, setting bail, the duration of prison sentences, and parole. In addition to the concerns regarding traditional legal guarantees that I just mentioned, this practice questions the extent to which the judiciary, relying on AI developed by private corporations, can be deemed independent at all. And of course, independence of the judiciary is an essential part of the right to a fair trial. Automated decision-making also violates basic democratic principles such as transparency, predictability, reliability, accountability, or participation. The main reason for this is the so-called black box phenomenon. We don't really understand how AI works, how it makes its decisions from the input data, which again in itself can be wrong or biased. AI technologies are also often used in the field of social services, for example, in the evaluation of eligibility conditions or risk assessment. In the digital welfare society, for example, the right to social security or the right to housing is potentially violated. And the list can be continued long. I'm not going to continue it right now. Actually, the question is, what can we do about this? Is the existing universal human rights framework appropriate to face the challenge? And I once again asked ChatGPT, and it seems that ChatGPT is quite pessimistic. It said that the current system of international protection of human rights was not designed to address the challenges that AI poses to human rights, and it may not be adequate to fully address these challenges. So basically the problem is that AI technology is advancing rapidly. Some say that faster than policymakers and the law can react to it. Nevertheless, I'm more optimistic in this regard than ChatGPT. The conclusion of a new AI-specific international treaty can be effective, but only if it was able to handle ex ante, so previously or before, the technological innovations themselves. In that respect, I think that the European Union's Artificial Intelligence Act, which is still a draft, looks promising. This draft, and an act, if it will be adopted, will put into place a well-defined risk-based regulatory approach that does not create unnecessary restrictions to innovations and trade. Furthermore, it is vital that human rights concerns must be embedded, coded, if you like, into the design and implementation of all AI applications from the outset, and to use ex ante AI-focused human rights impact assessment mechanisms. Finally, and I think this is a positive element in the story, international human rights treaties have been always interpreted by their relevant monitoring bodies in a progressive, evolutionary manner, to meet the needs of contemporary society. And this dynamic interpretation should make the available international treaties suitable to address new challenges, even if brought about by AI technologies. So overall, and I realize that these two examples were just a tiny bit of all the challenges that we face today, I think that the prospects of international law in this era, which I think is more aptly addressed as postmodern era, depend on the ability of the international community to adapt and innovate in response to new issues. And I think that notwithstanding the significant challenges, there is also the potential for international law to play a critical role in shaping the future of the global system. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Noemi. Thank you, Dr. Nagy, for your very interesting presentation. I think that if ChatGPT says that international artificial intelligence is not adapted to solve the issues in the future, I think if the proper chat says that I am not the one that can address the problem, I think we have already we have already moved forward a little bit on that. It's scary as well, the challenges. May I have in the future the right to be judged by a person? May I ask, I want to be under the person when I be judged? Or I want not to talk to a machine, I want to ask my right to talk to a person? Maybe these are fundamental rights. Professor Cayon talked about the first, second, third generation of rights. Maybe we will move from a third, fourth generation of rights, moving towards the first generation human right. I want to talk to a machine. This is the free development of my personality that goes on. Well, the next speaker is our very own Professor Carlos Espaliu. Professor Carlos Espaliu is a member of the Law and International Relations School. He's the chair of Professor Carlos Espaliu is a professor and chair of our research group at the university. He studied law at the University of Sevilla and Córdoba, and he completed his doctorate on a thesis about the competence of the International Court of Justice. He's been lecturer in several universities, the University of Navarre. He's been teaching as at the University of Catalonia, and as well he's been the director of the Salón Institute of European Studies. He's been as well Vice Dean for Academic Affairs at the Faculty of Law. He moved recently from his professorship to his acknowledging and recognition as a full professor, catedrático, which we are very excited about having you in our department. He's a main researcher at the research group on security, risks management and conflicts at the University of Nebrija, and he has several research periods called sexenios in Spain, research periods recognized thanks to his very prolific writing in topics related to international law, the rule of law and security. So I will leave the panel to Professor Carlos Espaliu. Without further ado, he will speak about legal and criminal prosecution of disinformation in Spain in the context of the European Union. Thank you very much, Carlos.
Thank you, Alfonso. Thank you, Dean. Bueno, voy a empezar en español. Agradecer a los organizadores que el profesor Cayon pues, tuvo la deferencia de invitarme y me preguntó qué tema podía hablar, y la verdad es que me hubiera gustado hablar de otro tema que trato de comenzar, pero la verdad es que no tengo mucho tiempo, o no he tenido mucho tiempo de empezar esa investigación, y he recurrido a un tema que he trabajado en el transcurso de un proyecto de investigación que tenemos aquí, y quiero ponerlo, actualizarlo en el contexto de este congreso. Felicitar a los organizadores, al profesor Jesús Martín, que me da mucha alegría ver aquí, a Tina, a Julius y al profesor Cayon y a Luis García por todo su gran trabajo, y gracias de nuevo por invitarme. No me voy a alargar demasiado en esta introducción para no coger demasiado tiempo. here you have the scheme of my presentation in order for you not to be too lost. So in recent years, we are witnessing the proliferation of attacks aiming at disrupting the public opinion, therefore disturbing the democratic functioning of states and international organizations. This new phenomena can be defined as the intentional dissemination of non-rigorous information that seeks to undermine public trust, distort the facts, transmit a certain way of perceiving reality, and exploit vulnerabilities with the aim of destabilization. Such deception techniques have been well known from centuries ago with the aim of war and political purposes, but owing to the technological revolution, their scope and their danger have multiplied. So I think it's a great interest, both legal and political, to see how the states and international organizations have been equipped, which measures, which legal measures, which political measures are being implemented in order to fight against this plague in this postmodern world. So my aim will be then to focus on the case of Spain, shed some light in how Spain has been fighting with legal measures against disinformation campaigns. First, I turn to the background regarding the fight against disinformation in the European Union. It has been increasingly recognized by member states and the EU itself that they have suffered huge, massive disinformation campaigns, mainly in the electoral context. But the problem here, the question here is to fight against disinformation in European Union is a very tricky question because it's very close to freedom of information, freedom of speech, which are the core of democracy, and democracy, of course, is one of the main values of the European Union as it is embodied in Article 2 of the Treaty on European Union. So those freedom, those liberties of speech and information are also protected by Article 11 of the Charter of the Fundamental Rights of the European Union and Article 10 of the European Convention of Human Rights. Next to that, the jurisprudence of both the European Court of Justice and the Court of Justice of the European Union, both the jurisprudence of both tribunals reinterpreted this fight against disinformation, saying that all the interpretation of those freedoms should be done in a restrictive way. Also, both tribunals said that any limitation of those freedoms must be imposed by regulatory provision. So it's not easy to fight against disinformation because any interpretation should be restrictively and also any limitation should be imposed by regulatory provisions. And so what then has done the European Union? When the problem became huge, the European Union authorities started to think about what would be the response of the European Union to this problem. And in 2015, they set up an East Stratcom task force in order to provide good information about the European Union in eastern countries of Europe in order to counter the disinformation campaigns. At the same time, in 2018, the European Union convened a group of experts in order to foster the future ideas on how to deal with this problem. Those experts decided on first to have a multidisciplinary approach instead of a hard law approach. They promote code of conduct with the main actors, the private main actor, instead of strong measures from the public authorities. They promote media literacy among the citizens, try to empower the journalist and the user instead of imposing strong penalties or persecuting those conducts through criminal law. After that grounded expert report in 2018, the European institution started to develop plans in order to foster future action in member states and European Union itself. First, they implemented an action plan against disinformation in December 2018, and they built on political determination and unified action between European institutions and member states. Then, some months afterwards, they set up an EU rapid alert system in order to share information and good responses against disinformation. Next to that, just a week afterwards, the European Commission came up with a code of practice that implies self-regulatory measures, for example, imposing economic sanction against the actor of the disinformation campaigns, closing false accounts, etc. Also, they try to let in the hands of the main operator in this field the implementation of those measures, and this code of conduct was open for signatures, and in mid-2020 all the main actors, or almost all the main actors, have signed that code of practice. For example, Facebook, Google, Microsoft, Mozilla, TikTok, and Twitter. Which is very surprising, very struck a little bit. It is that there is not any single strong hard law norm in this policy of the European Union. There is no rules, there is no directives, there is no regulation at all. Then we move forward to what is the case in Spain, what has been the policy of Spanish authorities in order to fight against disinformation. Spain, of course, is not oblivious to the legal requirement linked to the importance, the freedom of speech, freedom of information in the background of fighting against disinformation. Therefore, the Spanish Constitutional Court has said, has repeated in many instances that when it is in contradiction, freedom of speech or freedom of information with self-image of dignity, it should be always prevail the freedom of information, of freedom of speech. So this is a very high wall for fighting against disinformation, of course. So therefore, the Spanish policy has been also a multidisciplinary approach, not to hard law approach to fight against disinformation, trying to take advantage of fighting against cybersecurity, and then in this vein we have had a national strategy in 2013, 2019 and 2021 integrating cybersecurity into the national security system. Also, as an example of this multidisciplinary approach of fighting against disinformation, some author has pointed out as an example of good practice the case of Address Media Group, who has set up a site on their webpage in order for the citizen to check, to verify the veracity and truth of the news in their platforms. So, but next to that, what else? What have been other means of fighting against disinformation in Spain? What about the criminal law? So, it is impossible in Spain to fight directly to disinformation with the criminal law. To forbid disinformation directly will imply a violation of Article 20 of the Spanish Constitution. So, but according to the Technical Secretariat of the Office of the Attorney General, it is possible to fight against disinformation indirectly when the consequences of the disinformation campaigns affect other legal interests of other legal values. For example, the Office of the Attorney General have said that it's possible to prosecute disinformation campaigns when they constitute hate crimes of Article 510 of the Criminal Code, the crime of discovery and disclosure of secrets, the crime of moral integrity, terrorist offenses as well, the right to dignity, the crime of slander and defamation, and etc., etc. So it is not possible to fight directly disinformation through criminal rules, but it's possible to prosecute those disinformation campaigns when they affected other legal interests. So, but in the end, and with that I try to put an end to my presentation, there have been also some direct attempts to fight against disinformation in Spain. The first of all was an attempt made by the Popular Party in 2017 in order to adopt a law against disinformation, but it was rejected by Parliament. In the context of the pandemic, the current government succeeded on passing a ministerial order to fight against disinformation, the Order 1030 of 2020. This order set up a body of, let's say, authorities and procedure to fight against disinformation. Both the doctrine and some politicians have complained about that order, saying that it laid in the hands of the administrative authority the control of disinformation instead of the judiciary. But so far, those complaints have been rejected by the Supreme Court of Spain, finding that, yes, this order lay in the hand of the administrative authorities the control of the disinformation, but mainly this order set up a body of, as I said before, administrative authorities and procedure and don't get into the content of the news themselves. So it's not a sort of censorship. The same has been, that same question has been put to the European Commission, and 1 year ago the Vice President of the European Commission said that, as I quote, this Spanish order of 2020 updates the existing Spanish system to prevent, detect and respond to disinformation campaigns and to establish coordination structure, and it does not constitute a legal basis for deciding on the context of the content of information provided by the media. So it cannot be considered a sort of censorship. So I come to an end with my conclusions. So in this dissertation we have analyzed the different legal ways to prosecute disinformation in Spain, which were already provided for by criminal law, and the attempts made in recent years when the phenomenon reached very worrying dimensions to legislate and control it through other channels. We have contextualized this legal study in the fight against disinformation within the European Union to determine where appropriate the possible origin, context and motivation of Spanish regulations. This research thereby highlights the important limit that every democratic entity encounters concerning the right to freedom of expression and information when it comes to fighting disinformation. We must emphasize that this freedom has been recognized as fundamental and inherent to the rule of law by the most relevant European and national instruments in the field, such as the Treaty on the European Union, the Charter of fundamental rights of the European Union, the European Convention of Human Rights, or the Spanish Constitution, as well as by the consolidated jurisprudence of European and national courts. Thus, freedom of expression goes so far as to allow criticism of European or national authorities, whether spread through traditional media or new social network, even if not true. Any limitation to this, which must be based on asset national security or other legitimate grounds, must be imposed by law, as well as subject to the relevant parliamentary and judicial guarantees. Any type of administrative censorship of content outside this parameter is alien to European values and foreign to the Spanish legal system. For this reason, we find that at the European Union level, this information has been fought with a series of non-normative measures that advocate a multidisciplinary and cooperative approach among all the actors involved, from EU authorities to online platforms through the member states. As a corollary, that same approach has been the framework that has been followed in Spain. Thus, there is only one recent regulation to fight disinformation in a direct and specific way, the Order 1030/2020, which rather than regulating content, look for implementation of procedure and organic structure in each member state to fight disinformation. Although the order in question has been appealed through the courts, mainly on the basis of the fear of the absence of judicial guarantees in the procedure, all judicial decisions have so far declared it to be in accordance with law, as has the European Commission when questioned in the European Parliament on the matter. In this way, although the debate on the adequacy of fighting disinformation through solid legal regulation or hard law remains open, it seems that the field is moving to support cooperation between international and national authorities, self-regulation by private actors such as online platforms, or launching educational campaigns among the population to increase their resilience to the problems. In this vein, we describe herein the specific case of digital literacy promotion by an important audiovisual group in Spain to try to guarantee the veracity of the content offered in its newscast and to teach users to identify hoaxes in social networks. It remains to be seen whether this soft approach or recourse to soft law measures to combat disinformation will be sufficient to defeat the new plague on our contemporary society. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Carlos, Professor Espaliu, for such an enlightening presentation. It's amazing to see, though, that we have a royal decree protecting or trying to protect this information that connects directly to our disposition 21D in the Constitution, which is the right we have to true information. Maybe we could expect an organic law to deal with such a thing. Maybe we could discuss afterwards about it. Well, now Marzana Farnica will be our next speaker. Marzana Farnica holds a PhD in psychology. She currently works at the University of Zielona Góra in the Psychology Institute as the head of the Family Psychology Unit. She has begun her professional career in the Neuropsychiatric Hospital for Children and Adolescents in Zabor in 1998. She's licensed psychologist and she has an authorization from the Polish Psychological Association to do training on the field. She has also the title of Trainer of Social Skills and Aggression Replacement and Therapist of Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder. She has combined scientific work with professional practice, and she has cooperated with social, educational, and business facilities around the world. She is the president of the local branch of the Polish Psychology Association, and she is a member and custodian of the Committee of International Conference on Conflict and Aggression, CICA, and also a coordinator of Central European CICA Research and Formation Center. Her research focuses mostly on human aggression, coping with stress, temporal orientation, and support in the educational work and environment. And she's currently involved in research, coping strategies, triggers, and creativity, and different dimensions of aggression. Marzana, please. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. Buenas tardes, todos. So I'm very happy that I'm here. I'm proud that I'm at the first session. It's the first time. As the rector said, I'm the president of Polish CICA and the Research Information Center, Central European Center of CICA. So I'm very glad that I can be here and say you something about resilience and in time of crisis, mental health as the supply of societies. I would like to say that I have now the next function, because now I'm a cooperator of the WHO. Because of the crisis in Ukraine, we as a Poland have a new needs, and because of that we have the new one representative of WHO in our country. We have a lot the humanitarian organization in which I involved, and I would like to present some programs recommended by WHO, but not only by them, because I'm proud, because 5 years ago we prepared some training in our CICA organization connected with peacekeepers and peace workers, and it's very similar to that programs which are offered now by WHO. So let's start what is resilience in security area? I would like to say in postmodernity, it's very important that we have our conference, it's postmodernity. So we are, as Rector Cajon said, our world is decentralization, fast changed, and based on small communities. So we are different, and we make some community here. We are a small community, some branch of people who are interested and involved in some reason. So we make some society. And societies in postmodernism, science, knowledge, friendship has no borders and has no language, but we need lingua franca. So I hope that English is a good lingua franca now. And I would like to say in this changeable time about resilience. The Professor Carlos said before about resilience is in law. Now I am a psychologist, so we have the fourth wave of the research on resilience. It means that it's very psychological, process implemented interdisciplinary. So I don't know what means the resilience in law, but I know what means resilience in psychology, and what we should prepare the society who are resilient and who can cope with adversity. Because what is resilience? Resilience is the process of coping with adversity in a good way. But it could be treated as a psychological threat, personality threat of ourselves. So we differ about the level of resilience. We differ the weight, we differ the color of our eyes, and we differ the level of resilience. And then we can treat the resilience as a skill which we can train, and which the skill is very important to cope with stress, and we can train it as a future as an organization, and maybe a future of families and some small societies. So, if I would like to summarize, resilience is confidence and competence. Of course, we have a much more connected with resilience. It's of course being connected, being communicate, being contribution, have a character, coping, and of course, cooperations. So, in resilience, we apply our strength in the thought times. But what is connected with resilience in security areas? And now we are at the base human rights. Base human rights is the right to live in a peace. So this is connected with, of course, Maslow assumption, this is psychologist, but on the other hand, the individual safety is important not only from the psychological point of view. The security, a safety is treated as the basic human rights. So, because we live in the postmodernity, we are not talking about the globalized security structures, because this is the modern, it's the past point of view. In postmodernity, we are focused on the small groups and the national security base. It's meaning that it's not only military, not only economy, this is not only the social security, but it's connected with information. Why with information? Because the information, it's a tools to make secure society, but it's the tool for catastrophing. This is tools for making our brain as a monkey brain. What it means? It means that our brain, and we are thinking as in a generalization something, we catastrophizing, and we are not relying on facts, but only on the ideas. So this is a very important thing if we are talking about security base. And of course, national strategy of civil security. What it means? It means, of course, that we all need it as normal citizens, protect our systems. It means health institutions, training institutions, education institutions. We had the crisis during the pandemic time. The pandemic was the national security issue because our systems of health, for example, of health protection, were in danger. Our educational systems were in danger. So, this is the meaning of individual security in postmodernism, and we need to have resilient organization who are taking care about good response, and it means good reaction, and we need some people who are good response. This is the citat of the Polish Ministry of Defense, that the aim of national security is the anticipation of the future, so it means good recognize the threats and proper answer. It is connected with proper reactions. So, it's this idealistic state. I would like to show you the last slide because this about this idealistic state. You show all, you see all. The idealistic state is that if we have the resilient organization, we all the time have a good response. It means good recognition of the problems. Then we have time to recovery. We have time to assessment our action. Planning a new one, prevention for the costs, and preparation. But this is the idealistic state, and if we are in the idealistic state, of course, we have some dreams. That we have dreams that we have the very good soldiers, and we have a very good and prepared people, training and selection, even with genes manipulations, because we need Superman and superheroes with analytical skills, mental and cognitive flexibility, creative, fast learning, strong, durable thought, and they should be ideal. And we need, of course, the idealistic response. So we need people who are stimulating correct reactions and attitudes. We're developing appropriate assessments of phenomena and all phenomena which are connected with adversity. Promoting the right role models. Securing the needs and equipment of the army on some humanitarian and organization, securing time from combatants, isolating negative cases, and taking care of their regeneration. And of course, proper selection and definition of treats for further operations. So, this is the idealistic state. But unfortunately, it doesn't work. But maybe it's not unfortunately. This is the first rule of resilience. If we know that something doesn't work, it's a good recognition of the problem. But it's the question why? Because the cognitive beings, we know it, but why it doesn't work? Because we are humans. So you can see this is the suicide rates among the active duty military members in US. It's about 9 for 11 soldiers would like the depressive symptoms or suicide thoughts. Why is it? Because helpers and protected people are in the same situation. We are the same situation, so we have the same triggers, we have the same reactions because we are human beings, but we are different in a recovery strategy. This is the reason between the helpers and the people who were protected. So, and this is of course connected with stress curve. I think that everybody knows this curve. Our reaction is connected with on which point are you here now? In the green zone, so you are open, creative, or maybe you are in the red zone. It means that your behavior is quite straight according to procedures. You have no time and energy for being helpful, trusting, loving, peaceful. You do what you should to do. It's always. But with whom we are working, the people who are in needs, they have some different kind of emotions. They are frustrated, mad, aversive, apathetic, insecure, they scare, and sometimes they're very unhappy. And this both positions should match to help each other. What the solution? We can say that solution is easy. According to the study by WHO, the first solution is being connected. So in the NATO army in Poland, we have not only canteen and music clubs and shops, you know, this is the way to be connected, but we have a special point to be connected with family. This is the special place for being connected with other people in my country. What it means that people need protective strategies and need time for reflection and integrate themselves. This is the main reason, it's the main base of resilience. But if we know that it happens, that we know that, we have a gap, so we should take care about our mental health, because now we know that mental health is like the physical health and physical fit. We can train it, but it's the question how. And we have the very easy slide that reduction risks, reduction of exposures, reduction of hazards, and this is prevention. But what's now? Learn a new skills. Monitor your mental health and monitor your skills. Anticipate the difficult situations, so if I know that it's happened, I know that I should be prepared. And respond, because response is the application of your strength. And this is the resilience, easy. But it's not for everyone, it's not for every organization, because you know that it's not the idealistic state, this is reality. We need taking care about the resilient people in our resilient organization. So, we have 3 levels of taking care about our mental health. the basic at the pyramids, it's informal service. Is of course our individual self-care and informal community care, family care, and care. We have a friends who takes care about us. But at the top of the pyramid, it's something what is connected with mental health by stereotypization. Long stay facilities, specialists. I'm working at that level because I'm a professionalist in the mental health. But we have a gap. We have not only a gap in the resilience, we have a gap in the taking care of the self in the mental health. We have a gap which is connected with primary care and psychiatric service making by not specialists. This is the needs. We know that WHO knows that this is the need because we have a mental health gap. And what is connected with what the WHO proposed? You can see some guidance, some training, some proposal preparing by WHO. Of course, they are based scientifically. They have some proofs that they work, and all of them works on the resilience, on boosting resilience in people. So some of them are unguided, so it's doing what matters in times of stress. But of course, you need to be guided to make it by yourself. And Self-Help Plus, this is the training connected with group intervention. This is very short, it's about 5 sessions preparing the group. And of course, like in a postmodernity, after that official training, you can gather and you can be each other and you can gathering and make what you learn and take care about each other after the training. And there are the problem management training. This is 5. This is always only 5 session training, which is dedicated especially for people who are worker in adversity, which are worker in adverse environment. It's especially about, thinking about the weather disasters, for example, flood or earthquakes, or in the war or some conflicts, social conflicts area. But of course, what we know about resilience, but even we are in adversity, we still live. We still have our own life. So we have problems which needed to be solved. And there are the trainings on solving problems among people who are on the high level of stress, long time stress. And of course, then we have higher resources intensivity. There are the programs for people who has disorders, who are not at the preventive level, they are for people who suffer from mental illness and they need professional long-term help. But all of this, they are for everyone. They are for us. When we feel we are in bad condition, we can take care about our resilience. And we have knowledge how to do this. And what I say before, we as a CICA prepared in 2017 some program about the improvement of mental health and cooperation skills curriculum for peacekeeping personnel. It's called GPS program, and we were concentrate on the reflection of the current understanding of the strategy of working with conflicts. We try to focus people on coordination and integration work to use the supply, to use the support which they have, and of course improve use of resources and train and improve the individual resources, because we still have the two perspectives, individual and group perspective. So I'm proud that I was in that group and we did it. So now it's finished. It's the ideal state, which I would like to show you. This is on the right side, this is the normal cycle with gap, with collective amnesia between preparation and response, that we have some gaps. But on the left side, we have the normal ideal state. If we are working in a resilient organization, we have not gap. We are always prepared, and we train our skills, even we live and have our own line apart of the adversity. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Warnica, for this inciting as well presentation. We have to take care of resilience in a sort of compensation mechanism. We have to look for them. And as well, I see resilience as an ave phoenix that gives birth again each time he falls down. So maybe it's the way as well to approach it while we prevent it to be stressed. Well, our next speaker is Spanish Air Force General Dr. Federico Yáñez. General Yáñez joined the Air Force Academy after several operational and logistical assignments. He graduated as staff officer and was assigned to as an Air Force staff. He received a diploma as a joint staff officer, and as well, in the summer of 1993, he joined the international military staff at NATO headquarters. He was promoted to general in 1997, and afterward he was appointed as chief of the 2nd Division of the Joint Staff of the Armed Forces. In June 2001, he joined the International Military Staff as Assistant Director for Cooperation and Regional Security. During these 4 years, he was highly active in implementing NATO initiatives, Partnership for Peace, and the NATO's Mediterranean Dialogue. In 2006, he was appointed Director of the Museo de Aeronáutica y Astronáutica. General Yáñez has a doctorate degree in business sciences and a master in statistics, and also many diplomas and qualifications. He has a degree in journalism in 1973, and he is an experienced journalist. He is the author of many books and also more than 300 articles. He belongs to several non-profit associations. He is the Vice President of Eurodefense Spain and the member of the Board of the Atlantic Council of Spain. He has a monthly section on the Air Force magazine of NATO, and he is active on studying strategic issues. He's made many presentations about the topic. So with such a resume, what best person to speak about NATO? And he will talk about geopolitics, the situation in Europe, the NATO expansion, and the European defense. General Yáñez, please, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Buenas tardes, good late afternoon. It's for me a pleasure and an opportunity to express myself today on some issues related with European defense, but of course only some of the very large topic that is European defense. I will concentrate today on some comments on the European Union NATO cooperation and on the enlargement of NATO. Both things are now recent events, some of them. The different parts of my presentation will be some recent events in these areas of enlargement and cooperation, speaking about Finland and the task force on resilience. Then some remarks on enlargements in general, and then some comments on the cooperation between NATO and the European Union. The European Union's strategic partnership with NATO is essential for the Euro-Atlantic security, as demonstrated in the context of the Russian military aggression against Ukraine in 2022. The European Union remains fully committed to further enhancing this key partnership, also to foster the transatlantic bond. Both things are quite close. Building on the unprecedented progress made on the strengthening cooperation with NATO since 2016, further ambitious and concrete steps need to be taken to develop shared answers to existing and new threats and common challenges. The joint declaration signed in 2016 and 2018, two different joint declarations of cooperation between NATO and the European Union, are the key pillars of the cooperation. In the spirit of this joint declaration, and based on the principles of inclusiveness, reciprocity, openness, and transparency, as well as the decision-making autonomy of those organizations, NATO and the European Union will continue close and mutually beneficial cooperation, will further enhance ongoing cooperation on political dialogue, information sharing, crisis management operations, military capability development, and military mobility. The European Union and NATO will deepen their common work on changing and enhancing maritime security and countering hybrid threats, including foreign information on manipulation and securing cyberspace, as well as the implementation of the Women's Peace and Security Agenda. NATO and the European Union will further expand cooperation on emerging and disruptive technology, climate change and defense, resilience, and outer space. Having in consideration the mentioned partnership, it is important to familiarize with the latest development that you all recall on NATO enlargements and NATO-EU cooperation. A month ago, exactly, today is the 4th of May, and on the 4th of April, Finland, upon depositing the instrument of accession to the North Atlantic Treaty with the United States at NATO headquarters in Brussels, it was very interesting and very good for the Finnish that they didn't need to go to Washington, to the Department of State, because they had the Secretary of State of the United States in Brussels for a meeting of foreign affairs ministers of NATO. So he delivered the paper to the Secretary of the State of the United States in Brussels. Then the Secretary General mentioned, we welcome Finland to the alliance. As Finnish Foreign Minister Pekka Haavisto deposited Finland instrument of accession with the government of the United States, as I have said, represented by the Secretary of State, Mr. Blinken. The Secretary General then welcomed Finnish President Sauli Niinisto to NATO headquarters for a flag-raising ceremony to mark the country's accession to the alliance. Joining NATO is good for Finland, is good for the Northern security, and is good for NATO as a whole, said the Secretary General, that also noted that Finland's accession shows the work that President Putin failed to slam NATO's door shut. Instead of less NATO, he has achieved the opposite, more NATO and our doors firmly open, he said. The Finnish national anthem and the NATO hymn were played as Finland flag was raised on the NATO headquarters in Brussels. At the same time, that flag was raised in Brussels, also it was raised in Allied Command Operation SAFE in Mons and Allied Command Transformation in Norfolk, Virginia, United States. As I have mentioned, NATO and the European Union agreed to create a task force on resilience and critical infrastructure protection. NATO Secretary General Stoltenberg and European Defence Commission President Ursula von der Leyen announced on Wednesday, 11th of January, only 4 months ago, in Brussels, that the creation of the new task force on resilience and critical infrastructure. Secretary General stressed that resilience and the protection of critical infrastructure are key part of the joint work between NATO and the European Union. The focus of the joint task force will be on making our critical infrastructure, technology and supply chains more resilient to potential threats and to take action to mitigate potential vulnerabilities. The meeting took place the day after the signature of the third joint declaration, that we will refer to it later, on NATO-EU cooperation. The Secretary General said this partnership on resilience and crucial critical infrastructure, he said that is more important than ever to sign that, because Russia's brutal invasion of Ukraine has fundamentally changed our security. Now we have seen two recent events, I think 1 month ago and 4 months ago, on two different things: the announcements of NATO, Finland becoming a new member, and the new task force on resilience and protection of critical infrastructure. Now we have seen these two latest developments. Now we are going to review both processes. NATO's door remains open to any new country in a position to undertake the commitments and obligations of membership. This, speaking about NATO announcements in the open door policy. And contribute that are able to undertake the commitments and also to contribute to security in the Atlantic area. Since 1949, NATO membership has increased from 12 members that were the first to sign the Washington Treaty, North Atlantic Treaty, to 31 today. 31. The last one, as we have mentioned, is Finland. This process of enlargement took place through 9 rounds of enlargement. Currently, our partner countries have declared an aspiration to NATO membership. You know that NATO has a Partnership for Peace initiative in which countries that want to join the alliance have the opportunity to prepare themselves for that. And I repeat, currently, for partner countries have declared an aspiration to NATO membership are Bosnia-Herzegovina, Georgia, Sweden, and Ukraine. Finland and Sweden, as you recall, so for sure, completed accession talks and allies signed the accession protocols for both countries in July 2022 in this city of Madrid. While Finland has now joined the alliance, Sweden is an official invitee. You know, you have read the press, you read the press, you are people well informed that there were some problems with the ratification of the protocol of accession in one of the countries of the alliance. And that very soon, I suppose, it will be solved. But meanwhile, Sweden is considered an invitee and is attending the meetings of the North Atlantic Council and other meetings of the members of the alliance of the North Atlantic Council. NATO Secretary Stoltenberg has highlighted that NATO's priority is for Sweden accession, to be completed as soon as possible. NATO's open door policy is based on Article 10 of the Founding Treaty of the Alliance, Washington Treaty or North Atlantic Treaty. Any decision to invite a country to join the alliance is taken by the North Atlantic Council, that you well know is the highest political authority of NATO. Is taken from the North Atlantic Council on the basis in consensus of allies, among all allies. No third country has a say in such deliberations. NATO's ongoing enlargement process poses no threat to any country. It is aimed at promoting stability and cooperation, at building a Europe whole and free, united in peace, democracy and common values. At the 2008 Bucharest Summit, the allies agreed that Georgia and Ukraine will become members of NATO. That was something that surprised, but it is there. It is in the final communique of the Bucharest Summit. Bosnia and Herzegovina was invited to join membership action plan in April 2010. This membership action plan, MAP, is another instrument to try to help aspirant countries to become members. Aspirant countries, countries that have declared an interest in joining the alliance, are initially invited to engage in an intensified dialogue with NATO about their membership aspirations and the later reform needed. Aspirant countries may then be invited to participate in the MAP membership action plan to prepare for potential membership and demonstrate their ability to meet the obligation and commitments of possible future membership. Participation in the MAP does not guarantee membership. It's a way to facilitate membership, but nobody signs a paper saying that you have passed the MAP examination, now you have become a member. Countries aspiring to join NATO has to demonstrate that they are in a position to follow the principles of the 1949 Washington Treaty and contribute to security in the Euro-Atlantic area. They are also expected to meet certain political, economic and military criteria, which are laid out in the 1995 study on NATO enlargement. Here are some lines about the enlargement study of 1995 that I think is an extra that you don't need now at this time, but this beautiful evening is entering now. Based on the alliance invited, we are now speak, there were different times in which new members became members. And the first round of the enlargement, which brought Greece and Turkey to the alliance, was in 1952. The second was West Germany in 1935, and Spain in 1802. And at that time, in 1902, we had 16 countries as members of NATO. That way was during several years, till 1999. Now, after the Cold War, there were also some enlargements that are very significant. Based on the finding of the study on enlargement, the alliance invited Czechia, Hungary, and Poland to begin accession talks at the alliance summit in Madrid in 1997. It's very interesting. They were invited to join and to prepare themselves to join in Madrid in one summit, the first summit that took place in Madrid. These three countries became the first former members of the Warsaw Pact to join NATO in 1999. At the Washington Summit, on occasion of the 50th anniversary of the Treaty of Washington, these members of the former Warsaw Pact joined NATO at the Washington Summit. The membership action plan was launched at that time to help future other aspirant countries prepare for possible membership. Bulgaria, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Romania, Slovakia, and Slovenia were invited to begin accession talks at the Alliance Prague Summit in 2002 and joined NATO in 2004. All 7 countries had participated in the above before mentioned membership action plan. In those occasions, as there were 7 countries at the same time, it was called familiarly the Big Bang, the Big Bang. Then, at the Bucharest Summit in 2008, allied members took a number of steps for the future of the alliance. Several countries concerned, several of those things concern the countries of the Western Balkans. Well, I have here the list of the process to join the accession process to join the alliance. And I will mention the first step is accession talks with NATO, with the NATO team. Invitees, the second step, the invitees send letters of intent to NATO. The third is the accession protocols that are signed by NATO countries. That's before the ratification. Accession protocols are ratified by NATO countries, and then the Secretary General invites the potential new members to accede to the North Atlantic Treaty. Invitees then accede to the North Atlantic Treaty in accordance with their national procedures. In some countries, they need to go to the parliament. In other countries, it's a government issue, but the national way is the one that is applied in any case. Upon depository of the instrument of accession with the U.S. State Department, as I had mentioned before, in the case of Finland, the invitees formally become NATO members. Then, let's go now to say a few words about cooperation. Sharing strategic interests and facing the same challenges, NATO and the European Union cooperate on issues of common interest and are working side by side in crisis management, capability development, and political consultation, as well as providing support to their common partners in the East and the South. The European Union is a unique and essential partner for NATO. The two organizations share a majority of members, 22, have common values, and face similar threats and challenges. So there was a myth that there was a kind of competition between NATO and the European Union to decide which is going to be the actor, the main actor in the defense of the European Union. And that's a myth, that's a legend. Now, as we have seen, and we will see, there is a very good cooperation between the two organizations. Relations between NATO and the European Union were institutionalized in the early 2000s. It's a long process, building on steps taken in the 1990s to promote greater European disponibility in defense matters. Some of the more veteran people here will recall that at the time there was a Western European Union that was a kind of organization that was in charge of defense matters inside or on the side of the Western European, of the European Union. Well, from that time, the NATO-Western Union cooperation. In 2002, NATO-EU Declaration on European Security and Defence Policy confirmed European Union's assured access to NATO's planning capabilities for the EU's own military operations. As you can see, it's a long time since the relations began. In 2003, and that was also something very significant, the so-called Berlin Plus arrangements set the basis for the alliance to support European-led operations in which NATO as a whole is not engaged. At the 2010 Lisbon Summit, the NATO-EU strategic partnership was improved as reflected also in the 2010 strategic concept. So we had at the time one strategic concept for the European Union and one strategic concept for NATO and one European Union summit in Lisbon. And then both of two have focused the necessity to improve NATO-European Union strategic partnership. The development of European defence capabilities while ensuring coherence and complementarity and avoiding unnecessary duplication is key to joint efforts to make the Euro-Atlantic area safer and contribute to transatlantic burden sharing. Close cooperation between NATO and the European Union is an important element in the development of an international comprehensive approach. That was also a phrase very much used in the early 2000s, a comprehensive approach to crisis management and operations. NATO and the European Union stand united in condemning Russia's brutal and unprovoked invasion of Ukraine and in supporting Ukraine's sovereignty, territorial integrity, and the right to self-defense. The 2022 strategic concept, the one that was approved, endorsed in Madrid only 8 to 10 months ago, at the end of June 2022, describes the European Union as a unique, and this is the strategic concept of NATO, is a unique and essential partner for NATO and calls for an enhanced and strengthened strategic partnership. NATO calls for an enhanced and strengthened strategic partnership. In January 2023, a few months ago, Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg, President of the European Council Charles Michel, and President of the European Commission Ursula von der Leyen signed the third joint declaration on European Union-NATO cooperation to further strengthen and expand the strategic operationship between NATO and the European Union. Then you have heard, I hope, that there are 3 joint declarations on partnership between NATO and the Alliance. I have something here about the first and the second, but let's go to the one that is now in force and has been signed only 4 months ago, in 10 January 2023. The third joint declaration on European Union-NATO cooperation was signed by Secretary General Stoltenberg, President of the European Council Charles Michel, and President of the European Commission Ursula von der Leyen on 10 January 2023 at NATO headquarters. And then we are going to finish with this sentence. The third joint declaration aims to strengthen and expand the strategic council, the strategic partnership between NATO and the European Union, building on unprecedented progress of cooperation between the two organizations, since the previous declaration were signed in 2016 and 2018. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your attention, and thank you.
Thank you very much, General Janit, for your presentation, very going back in history about the different countries accessing NATO. Maybe indeed NATO and the EU will have the ability of the reconstruction of the work that would be necessary after the war, and for sure the cooperation that should exist between NATO and the European Union is going to be key in the future after the current scenario. I would like to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Julius Piwowarski. He's the founder of Research and Publishing Institute for Security and Defense Studies at the University of Public and Individual Security Upper in Krakow. He is the member of the European Association for Security, Polish Union of Uniformed Services Instructors. He is the author of 2 monographs published abroad, nearly 20 monographs published in Poland, and nearly 100 scientific articles published on foreign scientific magazines. His main field of interests are security sciences, philosophy of security, social psychology, sociology, pedagogy, praxeology, and science of morality, conceived as constituent of the first pillar of security culture. And also among his background, I would like to highlight that he is a member of the International Martial Arts and Combat Sports Scientific Society, and the co-founder of Polish Kickboxing Union, participating in multiple world and European championships in all-style karate. He has won the title of the World All-Style Karate Champion in 2006. He's got a master's degrees of 9 Dan in karate, 8 Dan in kickboxing, and 5 Dan in jiu-jitsu. He's been in fighting instructors of special police units, including anti-terrorist campaign in Krakow. So as you can see, a very oriented background in security and as well in martial arts. Thank you very much, Dr. Piwowarski. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Was a crazy scientist. The threats are everywhere. For example, we flight here, and during this flight we lost our main baggage. Because of that, I don't have the opportunity of using my tie. It's very comfortable for today. We are bringing some pieces of information from the part of East Polish border, small part, but very interested from security point of view. We have to realize that last time Poland stayed frontline state. In fact, the first frontline state in the European Union is strange, but very interesting, not only for scientists' situation. Polish activities on this border possess every four value of security culture functions, but nowadays the information is very fresh, and we have to have more time to make some more with the information scientifically. For today, I had decided to take part of this situation with my friend and scientific cooperator, our Dean of Security Faculty in Krakow. In fact, why is that? Because you and me, we have to catch the opportunity to be face to face with scientists and real experts of military issues. In fact, my colleague, Dr. Edward Wlazło, we are preparing this picture together. As I said, spent in total more than 12 years in military activities, Poland abroad activities, not only on the east border, but for example in Afghanistan, Israel, Syria, and so on, more than 12 years. Sir, could you give me support?
Magnificencies, professors, doctors, ladies and gentlemen, students. Thank you very much that you give me the chance. I would like to show for you the short presentation about the actually situation about the Polish border and the Belarusian border. It's still a bad situation. I would like show for you everything. This is information from 1 week ago, because I've been there twice on the border. I know how it's going on. Subject of my speech is exactly national security culture of the Polish-Belarusian border in the service on the interest of the citizens and countries of the European Union community. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the agent introduction to the topic. It's 3 points: the security system of Poland, the rule of the task of the border guard, Polish armed forces and the secret service, and the rest uniform duties, and the same interest of the citizen of the European Union and cross-border security on the border between the Poland and Belarus. When the crisis was started, exactly the crisis was in June 2021, exactly it's more like 1 year ago. The first refugees was come to the capital of the Belarus, exactly Minsk, from exactly Middle East, Iraq, Syria, Iran, and Afghanistan. For Poland was the same, for Polish duty, exactly for Polish border guard, and the same for Polish armed forces. Was big surprise that many refugees was cross on the highway from capital of the Belarus, from Minsk to the Polish border. Of course, Polish border guard have at the moment more like 17,000 soldiers, but it's not too much for our border guard help. Exactly, the police was everything, was the criminal section, was the special investigation section, prevention section, from traffic section, all police officer who was ready for help for border guard. The same defenses, Polish defenses forces, exactly military gendarmeria or another units was help for this big crisis on the border. The Polish people was the same, afraid what happened when more like 55,000 refugees from another countries would like visit our country. Of course, we are like the Polish people, we all welcome people, but we welcome if you have a visa, you have a passport, if you would like working in our country for our government, why not? It's possible all the time. Our border, it's open for these people, but if somebody would like cross not legal our border, this is crisis. This is crisis which the same was, I said a few minutes ago, was surprised the same. Different people, different culture, different religion, different everything. Of course, we are not afraid because we are, I said, we are in the UE, in Union European community, and it's not any problem for us. The same for some, we would like help for some people from Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Afghanistan, Iraq, just like that. But we can't open the border for the refugees, especially for young refugees, more like 20 old years, not more. And look for this picture on the left side. On the highway, the refugees is walking on the road. Another our police officer from civilian police in this white helmet. It's on the duty on the border between the Poland and Belarusian. There was the gate on the border between the Poland and Belarus, but the same was a big problem because the refugees would like avoid our law. This is not possible because we are, a few minutes ago, my rector, Professor Piwowarski, said that this is Poland exactly for all Union Europe community. We are the last front line for this situation. The same, how was the rules the Belarusian president for this crisis on the border? This is the problem for, not for us, but for us really was a big problem the first few weeks because many thousand different refugees would like cross to the Poland. Exactly the people the same was on the border with the Lithuania and Latvia. And President Alexander Lukashenko, he said the same in TV or in newspaper that more not legal immigrants is coming to the Belarusian and will be not legal cross our border. But this is not possible because our duty, especially the police, the border guard and the military, was ready for this action, which it's exactly from Turkish airline was used this plane for exactly for transport the refugees. Look here, the same on this picture, Polish border with Belarusian, it's 418 kilometers, it's more like 18% the border. On the right side is everything on the Polish language, is granica Białoruś. Look, it's 418 kilometers. And another Russian Federation, this is the Oblast Kaliningrad, it's more like 210 kilometers, and from Ukraine we have 535 kilometers. Rest from Republic of Slovak, Czech Republic, Germany, and Baltic Sea. This is the Union Europe border. Look here, how was the situation with the refugees? Which country was sent for us the refugees, especially from Turkey, from capital of Turkey, it's from Istanbul to Belarus was flying the all planes. The same from Iraq, Baghdad, Beirut, from Lebanon, and was the problem, still the problem, because the refugees sometimes especially during the winter, was not ready for this weather. When was frozen, when was minus 20, 17, just like that, and was dead on the Polish area. The same, the special forces from Belarus, like KBG or Belarusian Spetsnaz. This is the special forces from Belarus was participate on the border between the Poland and Belarus, was help for refugees. Look, this is on the right side is the special soldiers with dog, and on another picture it's during the exercise the Belarusian special. In army I was served 27 years, more like 27 years in Polish army. I was one time together with the Belarusian Spetsnaz on the exercise. Believe me, it's good soldiers, good equipment, physical, everything. It's ready for action. I know about this soldier. The same about the protection of the Polish border by security service. Look on the picture on this slide. During the crisis, 37 people dead from different countries. More like 300 missing, probably the same dead. We don't know what happened because nobody was informed the Polish government. But especially when was the crisis every month, very bigger, you know, the Polish government take the decision that we will be built the wall. Exactly the metal wall was prepared in 2022 on the border between the Poland and Belarus, and Polish government used more like 50 million tons of steel. At the moment, this wall is ready. Have a 5 meters high and 186 kilometers long. It's quite better for our border guards, police officer, and the military. But it's still a bad situation, a really bad situation. Of course, at the moment we are present in Madrid, capital of Spain. But in our country, our army, our police, and the same border guard, it's still ready. It's still on the duty all the time, every day, every night, every morning. Of course, we never know what happened in the future, but we hope that this, look here, this grave find the Polish tourist or the people who live on the village, and was informed the Polish government, because the refugees was no information our government. This is the situation. Many people, we don't know exactly how many people, how many refugees was crossed our border, and at the moment it's in Netherlands, Germany, Denmark, Sweden, Scandinavian country, Belgium, England, the Republic of Ireland. We don't know at the moment, because at the moment probably nobody knows. Look, on the biggest picture, the Polish border guard on the quad is patrolling our new wall, and on the right side the refugees use the special equipment, would like cross our border. Of course, we have a problem, little bit problem with white animal, because the big wall, 5.5 meters, it's little bit problem for wolf, lynx, and the same rest like bear. But I think that it's good monitoring there, and will be no any big problem with this white animal. Of course, please remember that Poland is in Europe Union community. We have to respect Union law and regulation. Why? Because we are, I said a few minutes ago, we are the last front line. Can you use the mic? From the last line for Union people from all Union community. I said the same a few minutes ago that these immigrants would like, I was talking with few immigrants from Afghanistan, Syria and Iraq and Syria, and I asked him why you are crossing, not legal, why you would like cross the Polish border. I would like going to the Germany, Netherlands and Scandinavian country. Why? Because he was reading on the website, on the internet, and watching in the Arabic or in Afghanistan, in Kabul, in TV, that European Union for these people is like paradise. If you have power, if you are young, if you speak English or Russian or Spanish, you find a job. And all young people think that the Union Europe, it's exactly the paradise for these people, and would like cross our border. At the moment, on our border, security, especially the border guard, police, and gendarmerie, and armed forces, more like 9,000 soldiers and police. Border guards, this is who and what service protect border, our union between the Poland and Belarus. It's exactly border guards, police, military gendarmerie, 6 airborne brigade, 11 armored cavalry division, 12 divisions, 16 Pomeranian division, It's a lot of mountain infantry division, the 21st Air Cavalry, territorial defenses forces, and the same special intelligence service, forest ranger and railway security guard. This is the how many soldiers and police officers it's exactly at the moment on the border. This is the information from 1st of May. It's exactly a few days ago, because I was talking with the HQ in Warsaw in police, and of course this is the official information. This is not confidential, just like that. It's everything in the on the website. And look how many. It's more like 8,830 police officers and soldiers at the moment. Every day, every morning, every night, it's on the duty for all people from the Union Europe community, not only for Polish people, but the same from the rest of Europe, because we have to, I said a few minutes ago, we have and we respect the regulation which the police and the rest have to really respect for security. For look how is the situation. This is few weeks ago. Some refugees is you know, on the wall just like that, and use the special equipment in the ground. But at the moment, I show for you if it will be okay. No. Here is the two guards officers. It's one staff sergeant, second is warrant officer, third class. He was exactly for a prevention. He was on the patrolling between the Polish war on the border between the Poland and Belarusian, and he was checked few meters going to the wall, and he was going in down more like 2 meters. Nothing happened, but this is true situation. I don't know what somebody will be give for me the question why the Polish government not use the Frontex. You know what does it mean Frontex? Frontex is the international border guard from European Union in exactly HQ. It's in Warsaw, in our capital of Poland, but our government, I don't know why, but at the moment I think that we have a strong police, we have a really strong border guard, and a really strong, more like 112,000 soldiers and special forces, and we don't need at the moment help from Frontex. Of course, I am only from university. This is not my decision, but probably the Polish government think that we have our forces which is really protect the border between the Poland and Belarus. If you have some question, of course, this is short time. I have 20 minutes, not too much, but I would like to show for you all information and give for you all information, because from Madrid to Poland it's more like about 4,000 kilometers, and probably nobody interesting about the situation. But we still have a problem. We have a still problem with refugees. I said a few minutes ago that we welcome all refugees. It doesn't matter from which country. We are very friendly. But if somebody would like visit our country, but with visa, with passport, with ID, just like that, welcome all the time. It's no any problems. I have a few friends from border guard. My two sons, it's two police officer, was there on the border twice, spent more like three months on the border, because it's every 3 weeks it's rotation, new forces, just like that. But still the government from Belarus, from Minsk, sent for us the refugees. We don't want that somebody will be dead. We don't need that somebody will be take the injuries on the border. But this is the problem for all Europe. If you will be our forces, our police officer will be not stopped for these refugees, will be really big problem for all Union Europe community. Thank you very much for your attention. It was my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Of course, as I said at the beginning, it is too early to say something more about it scientifically, because the problem is the subject of this information nowadays. But the source is very specific, because in fact it is not social phenomenon. We can name this crisis situation, not crisis situation. It's artificial migration. The goal was created and hidden from another country, not in the countries of these refugees. But is the topic for another time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Piwowarski, for showing us the critical situation that the border is living between Poland and Belarusia, and how police and on duty play a decisive role in controlling migration. And so thank you so much. So without further ado, I would like to open the panel for questions. We will have some words addressed at the end through Professor Callón, by Professor Julio Martín. So first I would like to open to questions, and then we will be closing with the words of Professor Julio Martín. So is there any question? Yes, please, sir. Oh, yeah.
I understand that not only questions but short comments. I mean really short, 2-3 minutes. We were exposed to the line of very professional presentations, very well prepared, and under the elegant chairmanship of Dr. De Leosa, and we appreciate that. I would like to comment on the presentation by Dr. Naomi Nagy, and that was devoted to the international law. I believe, I fully agree with the dimensions which you described as the future development of the international law, but I think 2 or 3 dimensions are missing. First of all, current international law is regulating relations between a state and a state. But we have a lot of non-state actors like Al-Qaeda, like Taliban, like ISIS, and we didn't find yet the way to involve them into the legal processes. When Taliban came to official power in Afghanistan, we were forced by circumstances to negotiate with Taliban, even to prepare some written agreements, but Taliban is not by classical perception allowed to be in the realm of the international law. Another question is the absence of legal status for many international structures, like, for example, OSCE. Until today is not a legal body. By the way, PAGOSH is not a legal body. PAGOSH is here represented, and we must find another way of involving this type of non-state actors into the international legal practice. And as well, we are talking about the unrecognized states. This is one of the dimensions where we need development of the international law, because say, our telephones, we have Taiwanese-made chips, but Taiwan is not recognized as a state and practically cannot be a normal participant of the international law. It's a huge country with a big population, and not only this, but Kosovo and Transnistria and Ossetia and Abkhazia, we try to make legal relations with them, but they are not legally involved into this process. So my suggestion is to consider several other ways of involving new types of actors into the international law, and to consider this to be a dimension of the development of this international law. Thanks.
Thank you. Dr. Nagy?
Thank you for this comment. I absolutely agree. I think that international law is constantly evolving, and the way we used to talk about it is a very traditional and positivist approach, which is untenable nowadays. So definitely new actors are forming it, and I think that from a formal approach we have to move more to an informal approach, where non-institutionalized methods come into the picture. But I wouldn't want to go into this in great detail, because that's a huge topic. We cannot even scratch the surface. So, but thank you for your comment. You touched upon very important issues.
Thank you, Dr. Raghi. Is there any reaction from the floor about this international question, international law? Any other question?
Yeah, thank you very much. I would like to ask Professor Najib about this current debate of the private management of personal or profile data or the public management. What is your opinion about the risk and the security guarantees between a model and a standard of private management of big data, personal data, etc., or the public management of this data? Thank you.
Yeah, I might have made a wrong impression about myself. I'm not a data protection management expert, so honestly, I don't know the answer to your question. But I'm open to discussion after this session, and then you can enlighten me about that.
Thank you.
I think I would, if I may add, as a public law, from the public law dimension, I believe that the management of public or private data, public-private management of data, has very much to do with the type of information we're dealing with. So, precisely, we are seeing private institutions that are dealing with managing data, giving value to data, which is important. But falling into the security dimension, I will always prone what would be the most cautious, which is I would rather err on the side of public in terms of this information. But it's just a single humble input into that. Any other question? Sure.
If I may.
I also have one.
Well, I think we should differentiate between disinformation and misinformation. And disinformation is a preponderant and conscious attempt to fraud the public, while misinformation is, in our times, is everywhere. I mean, misinformation is simply amorphous information, and probably we should tackle them legally differently. For the disinformation, there are punishments which are imposed theoretically by courts, but in practice, international courts work very badly. For example, the International Criminal Court during 10 years finished only 4 sentences, and this costed $1 billion. So it's a very, very ineffective structure, and United Nations Charter does not suppose to create tribunals on every small case. Practically, we had in the history of UN only 3-4 cases for international tribunals. So when you speak about judging disinformation on behalf of the European Union, you should have consensus of 27 countries, and this consensus is very difficult to reach. This is why my humble suggestion is to consider that misinformation is rather a normal pluralism of opinions, and probably misinformation in our times should be allowed. For example, we both, I mean the Russia and the West, we prohibited technically the broadcast, television broadcast and radio broadcast onto the territories of each other. But this is not a court decision, this is not a legal approach, this is an administrative approach by ministries who just jammed the frequencies on which the broadcasting is going on. So how do you differentiate between this and mis?
Thank you very much. The question is very good, very open. I don't know it is the time for getting too deep into those questions, but I would try to do my best. I think which is the difference between misinformation and disinformation. Disinformation is a huge action, many actions trying to disturbing the public opinion of one's society, normally states. I think there is behind those campaigns an aim, a political aim, even a war aim or rivalry aim. No? Misinformation is, I think, is a lower phenomenon. It's more normal, and the aim behind the misinformation campaign are not directly focused on security or strategy, or they are not connected directly to defense or security issues. So I think disinformation, when there is a state behind those campaigns, is very, they put in danger security, international security, and it's very serious. So the reaction of the Western societies that we are talking today, I think it should be stronger, and not, a response based on international law tools, which are not very strong sometimes, mainly when, for example, in some cases, when big states, big power, for example, Russia or China, like permanent member of the Security Council, are behind those disinformation campaigns. So what do you do when you are facing that situation? The victim countries is very, very difficult. So Europe and Western societies are now dealing with those problems, and we will see what will be the solutions of reactions of the victim countries. But misinformation are something which is not normally directed to political aims, but also economical aims or other aims more openly. So the solution or the reaction should be other ones and not so serious. That is my opinion. Coming forward to your question about international tribunals, I cannot agree with you on that, because I think, as I heard properly, you said that normally they don't work well or something like that, I heard. But I think I myself, I work in an international tribunal, so I cannot accept that. But sometimes, for example, ICJ, International Court of Justice, we have only 100 civil servants working there. So and they are facing, or they are dealing with the more important problems in the world, some of them, because the state don't accept to render their cases to the court. So, but still, they have very, very important topics there, and they have only 100 civil servants working there. So it's very, you take that into account. Perhaps you can say they are not working the best that they can, but they are very restricted budget and only very few resources. But there are Yugoslavia Tribunal, for example, they had 1,000 workers, the 1,000 agents, so they can do more things. But ICJ, for example, only have 100 workers. Is very, very few, very tiny. But yes, and the debate will be very, very broad and go further, because the problem of the International Tribunal is mainly, I think, that they should work on the basis of the acceptance of states to be judged by the judges, by the tribunal, and normally big powers don't accept to be judges by those tribunals. So they do what they can, and with tiny resources sometimes, and let's say perhaps the public opinion will require from them more action, stronger action, but in international law, no states cannot be judged without their consent. I think that this is the main background in which they operate normally. So perhaps public opinion has not a good image of international tribunal, but I think it is based on that background that they cannot judge states without their consent. I don't know if I have replied to your question.
I would like Carlos to jump in that to see what is your opinion about it. Back at the end of the 20th century, we had an issue with unbundling of the local loop in telecom and with the content that through this local loop was given. We said that concerning content on the internet, we should self-regulate. Let's self-regulate the market. Many voices were reasoned about the fact that we need to regulate the content that was given on the internet, but we didn't. And today we are facing what we're facing, self-regulation. If I understood it well, you were, from this multidisciplinary approach, not having a specific regulation, but letting somehow the market self-regulate, the market of information, if we say so, which is quite contradictory, because if we say market of information, but we don't consider citizens, clients, in terms of information, because if I understood it well, the jurisprudence doesn't consider information, or I couldn't claim this information based on me as a client. I wouldn't be. So could you elaborate a little bit more on that jurisprudence? Do you see that there's going to be some evolution towards considering data and information as a product that I may claim as a consumer of information that would connect to the disposition 20 that we were talking before in our constitution that claims that we all have a fundamental right to true information? Thank you.
Yeah, it's a wonderful question. Thank you very much, Alfonso, for that. I don't know neither it is the time to get deep into that. It's a very important issue, I think. What do we do, Western countries or democratic countries, against disinformation or misinformation? Even yesterday I thought a lot about that, and I think it's an ongoing process. So disinformation campaigns are very new in such a huge dimensions. So now we are dealing with that. It's a new problem, and we are trying to find out which are the better solutions for that. For example, only 2 or 3 years ago, the European Parliament recognized that there were some intervention of Russian activities in Catalonia independence process, just 2 or 3 years ago. Last year, about some days after the invasion of Ukraine, the European Union closed some Russia media because they were involved in a disinformation campaign. So it's a very new problem. I would say even if they create a lot of problem, misinformation and disinformation, I will try to be very, let's say, moderate in our responses. I will try to respect as much as we can the freedom of speech and freedom of information. I think that's what is very important for democratic countries to stay there, even if we suffer a lot of problems, a lot of risk. I think we should respect always freedom of speech, freedom of information, even if we suffer the consequences of evildoers. But when behind those campaigns of misinformation or disinformation there are states, big power, who try to destabilize societies, I think then we should be strong and use the weapons of international law to fight against those disinformation campaigns, because they are connected to cyber security, or they are involving huge security issues, and then I think we should be stronger. But when there are minor misinformation campaigns or fake news or whatever, I think the society should be resilient and should suffer those problems, even if the consequences are bad. But I think it's better to preserve democracy and freedom of speech and freedom of information. That, for the time being, I think it is my opinion. But perhaps if the phenomenon goes on and worsen, perhaps we have to move forward, to change our strategy and to look for a stronger response to those campaigns. But so far, that is my opinion.
Thank you so much, Carlos. We are ahead of time, so I would like to give a warm round of applause to our fantastic panel, please. And I would like to give the word to Professor Juan Cayón and to Professor Julio Martín. Thank you.
No sé si funciona. No, cojo este entonces. Sí. Thank you very much, Alfonso. Just 30 seconds before the drinks, the welcome drinks, in order to say in the name of our chief, Jesus Martín Ramírez, that he is very grateful and very thankful to you for sharing this time with him. And he said that even a Spanish guy never abandoned the ship. He said that probably this will be his last CICA because he wants to rest and enjoy the retirement. So thank you very much, Jesus, for all. You are the organizer and the aim of CICA International Foundation, and that's all. Let's go to the welcome dreams. Yeah, we will take a photo, please, all the panel and also Jesus, if it's possible, and we finished. Thank you very much. The welcome dreams are outside, so please enjoy.